Today we're talking about the top two culprits to female body fat, particularly in the midsection. And if you're a new face around here, then welcome. My name is Megan Olson. I'm a nutrition practitioner and I help women over 35 lose 20 to 50 or more pounds for good, focusing on their hormones, okay? And before we get started here today talking about these two culprits to female body fat in the midsection, what I want you to know is that I am hosting a free class on how hormones impact weight loss and the 5 steps to lasting weight loss. So you can click the link above this video to reserve your spot for that free class or to grab the replay. It's totally free to you. So go ahead and click that before you forget. Now let's talk about the two culprits to body fat. Now, if you're a female over 35 and you're trying to lose weight, tell me in the comments below if belly fat, midsection fat is something that's problematic for you. And if you don't have concerns with the midsection or the belly fat, tell me if you've been struggling to lose weight, okay? So tell me which one of those in the comments you have been struggling with, okay? So I can know a little bit more. So let's just dive right into this. Body fat, particularly in the midsection, is the first place that our choices tend to show up. And by that I mean how you eat, how you deal with stress, how you exercise, how you sleep, what you drink, what you do, what you're thinking, right? Your waist is the first place where how all of those things in your lifestyle are going to kind of rear their ugly head. And the good news is it's also one of the first places to typically respond when we start doing the right things for our hormones, when we start eating the right way, what we're drinking, how we're managing stress, how we're prioritizing sleep, how we're exercising, all of those things, how we do those things, the midsection can respond quite quickly when we get those things really dialed in. Body fat, particularly in the midsection, is particularly linked in studies to obesity, hormone dysregulation, chronic disease, higher estrogen, diabetes, development of diabetes, fatty liver disease, heart disease, metabolic problems, cancer, all kinds of diseases. So we really want to kind of avoid the belly fat. And so really, that's why addressing that kind of midsection is so important. I mean, being overweight does come with health risks, but when it's particularly around that midsection and you're a female, we really want to tackle that because it can lead to some pretty serious problems down the road. And I'm not talking about you getting like a six-pack, okay? We see those images of women everywhere, and for most women, it's just not, it's not really the goal, okay? I'm talking about you really getting healthy. And I'm also not talking about, resolving gut issues like candida and SIBO and some of these other things, right? Gut issues are super important, but what we're really focusing on today is the body fat in the midsection. So if you do have GI problems, gut issues, that kind of thing, I really recommend that you see a GI specialist or a functional doctor to get those things addressed, because really nothing that you do in terms of weight loss or dieting will work until you get that, those gut issues kind of resolved, okay? So let's talk about the two culprits to that midsection fat. And the two culprits are two hormones, okay? And if you're not taking notes, I highly recommend you get out a notepad because I'm going to go through a lot of things today and it's going to be really helpful. You might want to take some notes, okay? So these are the two culprits to belly fat, insulin and cortisol. These are two hormones and they're not talked about enough, I don't feel like, especially in the weight loss world. We hear a lot about, cutting out foods and watching our calories and our macros and all these things, but we don't really talk a lot about these important hormones that really dictate whether or not we burn or store fat. Okay, so when you put these two hormones together, insulin and cortisol, they're kind of like the perfect storm for gaining weight. And what I want you to really understand here is that cortisol and insulin can be really good hormones that can work for your body and help you lose body fat and body weight. And it can really help you reduce the midsection, but it's really helpful when you're taking the right approach with your nutrition and lifestyle. And most people on a standard American diet are not taking that right approach. We've got kind of the opposite thing going on, right? So let's talk about cortisol first. Cortisol can be super helpful hormone in losing weight. Let's say you're doing some exercise. Exercise gives you a cortisol response because exercise is stress. And when cortisol is combined with the right hormones like, testosterone, human growth hormone, this is a really great combination for burning some fat and gaining lean muscle tissue. You don't want no cortisol in your body. That's not the goal, okay? It's having the right balance. And you want the right amount of cortisol at the right times. That's kind of the key. And what most people, in America today, we all have chronically elevated cortisol, myself included. It's something I have to even kind of manage. But chronically elevated cortisol, this is where you tend to store more fat, which is what you want to avoid if you're trying to lose weight. And we're going to talk more about that in a minute. The other hormone that we talked about, that's the culprit here, is insulin. Insulin is a really important hormone for weight loss. And when you're eating large quantities of fatty foods, foods with added sugar, foods high in starches, and even natural sugar foods, insulin is going to cause you to store more fat. That's just how it is. And people, again, eating the standard American diet are tending to eat more fatty foods, foods with added sugar, foods with a lot of starches, those kind of things, okay? But here's the thing, insulin can cause you to store more fat, but it can also cause you to lose fat. And that's really an important thing. Insulin has kind of gotten this really bad rap. That's why so many people are jumping on this low carb trend and the keto trend. Those diets really have everybody believing that carbs are evil because insulin is going to make you fat. Here's the thing. Insulin is going to make you fat when you're eating a large amount of fatty foods, high starches, and foods higher in calories when your cortisol is high. Okay, but insulin is really great for helping you lose weight because after you work out, that's the best time to refuel your body. You want those healthy carbs. You want the extra protein right after that workout because insulin is literally depleted in the body, and it really is the best time for your cells to absorb those really healthy carbohydrates and to really help kind of stimulate muscle regrowth and body fat reduction. So this is where insulin and cortisol can be super helpful for losing weight. But again, we have to be really deliberate and really mindful of our choices and how we're going about doing these things. Okay, so insulin and cortisol are the two culprits to our body fat. Let's dive into these hormones just a little bit more so you have a better understanding of how they're impacting your weight loss. So stress hormone is cortisol. I think all of us have heard of cortisol, right? It's produced by the adrenal glands, and there's two things you really need to understand about stress. It's not bad to have some stress in your life, and simply not having any stress is completely unavoidable. We're always going to have stress in life. So if you're somebody who's watching this and saying to yourself, well, I have a really stressful life and there's just no way my life is ever going to calm down, that's wrong. Okay, and here's why it's wrong. It's because it's how you're thinking about it. It's your mindset, right, and your attitude. You can absolutely 100% teach yourself how to be more resilient to stress. You can learn how to react to stress better. There are skills that you can implement to help you better build up your toolbox so you know what to do in times of stress. And again, it comes back to the choices that you're making. So to be clear, chronically low-grade elevated stress and high cortisol can be a real issue for women. Many of us think that being stressed out all the time and doing a million things is totally normal, but to your body, it is not normal. This is putting your body in a fight or flight response. So you could be eating all of the right foods and exercising all the time and never losing a pound or seeing any reduction in your midsection because you have too much stress. And the issue with stress is that most of us, like I said, is living in this fight or flight mode. This means our bodies are really on this high alert all the time. And flight or flight mode to your body is like a bear is chasing you in the woods and you need to be prepared at any time to run a marathon to get away from that bear. So your body is going to request certain foods from you with your hormones, right? Because it knows that it's got this fight or flight response going on, and it knows it's on high response and high alert. So it's going to request that you eat foods that are going to fuel you so you can run as fast as you can for as long as you need to get away from that bear. And many of us don't realize this. We just go about our stressful days, go about our stressful lives, and we don't realize how stress is really impacting us. We just think, we're victims to the stress. It's happening to me, instead of really empowering ourselves and saying, gosh, I really need to find some ways to, deliberately relax and change how I react to stress. That's really what it's about. And a lot of that comes from our mindset and our attitude towards our lifestyle and our choices. Everyone is 100% capable of making good choices with food and staying active, even during high times of stress. And I want everyone watching this video to realize that those can be your anchors during those high stressful times. You know, how you eat, how the food that you eat, the nutrition that you have, and the things that you do to deliberately de-stress can actually really hold you down and anchor you down during high times of stress. So it kind of just rolls over you. But the first step is for you to really realize that stress is unavoidable in life. You're never going to get rid of it, and that's totally okay. It's really about you learning to manage how to deal with stress better and doing things deliberately to make yourself more resilient to stress. Okay, so here are two really simple things that I have all of my clients do to sort of improve their stress and reduce their cortisol. The first one is not exercising too much. Most people are really surprised to hear me say this, and I talk about this in my training class that I'm going to be giving soon. But people tend to be in one of two camps. I have the people who do nothing, and I have the people who are just like exercising like 2-3 hours a day, and they're just going crazy, and they're doing it 6-7 days a week, getting no rest days in between. And it's mostly high cardio, running, HIIT workouts, that kind of thing. So when you are exercising like that really intensely, you may wonder why you want to eat an entire content of your refrigerator. You want to eat all the carbs and you're craving sugar and salt. It's because you're doing too much. You're exercising way too much. And if you're waking up in the middle of the night or having a lot of issues sleeping, this is a sign that your cortisol is really taking a hit from being too active. Right? So exercise really has a fine line. And most of us are living really busy lives. You've got a job, you've got kids, husband, significant other, family members, and then you're working out like it's, your part-time job on top of everything else that's going on in life, and then you're skimping on sleep, you're not getting enough food, and it's messing with your cortisol level. So here's the thing, exercise is important, but there's kind of a point of diminishing return, if you will, when it comes to exercise. You can't out-train your hormones. You can't out-train your cortisol. And this is why so many women get burnt out and then they're frustrated that they can't lose weight because they're eating really healthy, they're working out all the time, and yet the scale is going up and not down. And this is so common. I see this all of the time. And the reason the scale is not going down is because you're working against your cortisol hormone, which is causing a ripple effect on all of your other hormones, including your thyroid. The body really stops converting active thyroid hormone when you're working out too much and too stressed out. Ghrelin, your hunger hormone, it increases because you're really overly active. And many other things start to happen. It's really a ripple effect. All these hormones in your body, they play together. So if you mess one up, eventually they're all going to take a hit. Okay. So the first thing is getting that right balance of exercise, not over exercising, but also getting some form of exercise in. Okay. The second simple thing you can do to decrease your stress level is just walking. I think this is probably the most underrated thing that most females can be doing. We're not getting a lot of activity. And we need to be moving more, and movement is really the key when it comes to kind of increasing your metabolism or making your metabolism more flexible, if you will. I lost 80 pounds by walking. I didn't do any kind of HIIT workouts and any of this kind of, jumping around like I'm at a boot camp stuff. I simply just walked every day, and I made walking a priority. And that is something that I really, hone in on with my clients is walk, 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 walk. If you can do it 30 minutes a day, great. If you can do it 10 minutes a day, great. Break it up throughout the day. If you can't do it all at once, do 5 minutes here, 10 minutes here, whatever works best for you. Walking is the best way to bring your stress down. It's also the best way to burn fat, and it improves your insulin sensitivity and decreases cravings. So walking is probably one of the best things that you can do to really help yourself. And many of my clients, when they first start working with me, they kind of are make up a lot of reasons why they just can't do that. But once they start doing it, once they start making it a habit, it really becomes their anchor during times of high stress and really helps them deal with everything. And they start to discover that. So that's one of the things that you can work on, the exercise and the walking. Okay. So let's talk a little bit about insulin. Insulin is the biggest culprit for weight gain. Like I said earlier, insulin and cortisol together, you're going to gain weight. So after you eat a meal, the deal with insulin is that it gets released from the pancreas, and its job is basically to keep your blood sugar balanced. And most foods have sugar in them, okay? So your insulin's job is to find a home for that sugar. Sugar storage is either in the muscles or a tiny bit in your liver. And if there's no storage space available because you're not very active, then it's likely going to get converted and stored as fat, especially if you're somebody who's, not very active. Okay. If you're not moving a lot throughout the day, you don't exercise, you don't, stand a lot, those kind of things, you're going to convert it to fat, no matter how healthy it is. So some insulin is good, like we talked about before. We want insulin to really do its job. But a lot of time, too much insulin, but a lot of insulin all the time, pumping out, is not good. And this is where we get into trouble. And it's really a recipe for weight gain and other problems like diabetes. So if you're chronically overeating, you're eating really high calorie foods, you're eating out frequently, you're getting a lot of fatty foods in your diet, a lot of foods with added sugar, you're eating above your caloric needs. This is where insulin is going to cause you to gain weight. The scale is going to go up. So insulin and cortisol are really important to understanding why you can't lose weight, why the scale isn't moving. And when you learn how to really approach these two hormones with your lifestyle choices, it becomes easier to lose weight. So having that right knowledge, having that right education is so fundamental. And I hope this really helps you understand that just eating healthy alone does not equate to weight loss or a flat belly. Okay, it simply doesn't work, because when insulin and cortisol are kind of all over the place, and you can, control insulin and cortisol with the lifestyle choices you make, that's what you have to really realize. If it's all over the place, you're just going to see your weight not budge. And in fact, it might even go up, even if you're eating healthy foods. But you can 100% control your insulin and cortisol with all the choices that you're making. In fact, slashing calories, doing a detox, cutting out all the carbs, and working out excessively is only going to make weight loss harder for you, especially after 35, because you've got declining hormones happening. So understanding how your hormones work so you can make your body work for you is so key, ladies. And I wish somebody had told me this decades ago. Okay. And this is what I really help women with, is eating for their hormones so they have really great energy, they have no cravings, and they lose weight, but they're doing it in a really smart way so they're not damaging their hormones and their body and causing all of these other problems. Okay. So if you want to learn more about how hormones are impacting weight loss, join me for a free class that I'm going to be hosting. It's the 5 steps to lasting weight loss. You can click the link right above this video to reserve your spot or to get the replay. I will talk to you guys soon.